Welcome to Byju's. Arab invasion of Sindh in the 8th century was a reflection of the growing commercial interests of the Arab merchants who had been active in the Arabian Sea trade for quite some time. India, from a time immemorial, was known as the Golden Bird because of the vast resource India was endowed with. However, what happened in 712 AD was driven both by long term factors, the long term interests of the Arab merchants, but also triggered by an incident, because of which the governor of Iraq, Al Hazaz, sent his nephew and also the son in law, a young, energetic man, Muhammad bin Qasim. Muhammad bin Qasim, who was only 17 years, was sent with a very large fleet to punish Dahir, the ruler of Chach dynasty of Sindh. And although the historians say that this event was a no event because the political consequences of the event of invasion of the Arabs under Muhammad bin Qasim did not result in a full-fledged Arab empire. It happened only after 3-4 centuries with the establishment of Delhi Sultanate. But the event is important because the long-term cultural, the long-term economic, demographic consequence was very vast. And also remarkable is the fact that Islam as a religion established its foothold on the Indian soil. So it happened that Al Hazaz, the governor of Iraq, with the permission of the Caliph is a person who is believed to be, who is recognized to be the religious head, also the political head of all the Islamic countries. So Caliph is believed to have the sanction of Prophet Muhammad and his descendants or the later disciples to rule over any confusion, any injunction related to Islam. So the Caliph Walid of Umayyad dynasty, who was stationed in Damascus, Syria, gave permission to Al-Hajjaj to go ahead. What was it triggered only by one event? The event was the plundering of 8 Arab ships in the Debel port of Sindh by the pirates, and the ruler Dahir did not do anything to prevent that, and even he did not compensate it. But if we see the causes, let us see the causes, then we will understand that it was not only triggered by an immediate cause, but there were long term interests of the Arabs, long term interests of the polities of the ruling dynasties in the Central Asia, in West Asia, towards infiltrating, towards interfering in the Indian affairs. So let us see one by one the reasons for invasion. Plunder of wealth. Plunder of wealth because the Arabs, because they were aware of vast interests of India. Interests in terms of natural mineral resources and also the strategic location of the Indian ports as a gateway to the East Asia trade. So they wanted to capture the rich ports of Sindh so as to control the entire Indian Ocean trade. So they were active in the Arabian Sea trade. By capturing the ports of Sindh, they will also have a say in the Bay of Bengal trade. India was a golden bird. Rich accounts of India's resources were present in the Western world. From the time of Alexander's invasion, and even before that, when the Persians tried to unsuccessfully establish their foothold over mainland India, so the historians, the geographers, Strabo, Megasthenes, all of them had written rich accounts of India. So this was the long-term interest. This was a long-term factor, and they were looking for an opportunity. Expansion of Islam. 6th century, after 6th century, Islam expanded. It expanded from Central Asia to Egypt to Syria, and then it was trying to get its foothold also on the Indian subcontinent. So the newly Islamicized Arabs, they were very excited, and they held all non-believers of Islam as infidel. For them, this mission, for them capturing new areas was also a way to express the, to popularize the core tenets of Islam. So this spirit we also see later times with the advent of Turks in the form of Ghazi spirit. The term Ghazi being used for the Turkish tribesmen, but now for the newly Islamicized, because they had acquired a new religion and there was a natural religious zeal. So the Caliph Walid of Egypt, Syria, he wanted to expand it to Indian subcontinent. These are the long-term causes. Then the immediate cause. It is said that eight Arab ships eight Arab ships carrying lot of treasure and in gifts also from the king of Sri Lanka, then known as Ceylon. It was plundered at the port of Debel. And when Al-Hazaz, the governor, demanded a inquiry and also a compensation from Dahir, Dahir did not act promptly, and because of which they were angry with the ruler of Sindh who had failed to check and to compensate for the loss. And it was enough of a trigger for a ruler, Dahir, who was already very unpopular among his people. Dahir, the ruler of Chach dynasty, who was ruling over a small territory of Sindh, was very unpopular because of his religious fanaticism. He was a supporter, he was a patron of Brahmanism. And in his zeal, in his effort to patronize, to popularize Brahmanism, he many times persecuted the non-Brahmins, mainly the Buddhists. The population of Sindh was, in terms of its religious faith, very diverse. There were people who professed Brahmanism, there were others who professed or who were believers of Buddhism, Jainism, and there were some Jews also. So in a heterogeneous setup, generally a king who is secular, he is acceptable to all. But during those times, secularism as a concept was not there. We don't find many of the rulers who were equally oriented towards all the religious beliefs. Unfortunately, Dahir, by temperament also, he lacked strategic vision. We will see more about the absence of the strategic vision when we discuss about the invasion or what happened during the wars and battles. So the condition was conducive. Everybody knew that Dahir is unpopular. He is ruling over a small tract. People are not happy from him. And also he has failed to respond to our repeated plea for some action. Caliph was looking for this opportunity and he gave a go-ahead to Al-Hazaz, who dispatched a vast army under his nephew son-in-law Muhammad bin Qasim. And then the invasion occurs. One by one, the cities which were fortified, they began to fall like a pack of cards. First to fall was Debel. Debel was a fortified city and it offered some resistance to the army of Muhammad bin Qasim. But again, a Brahman, a treacherous Brahman, he betrayed. And for some materialistic gain, he revealed the secrets of the loopholes of the fort of Debel and it was captured. After the capture of Debel, Muhammad bin Qasim moved forward. He conquered Niron, which was under the control of Dahir's son Jaichand. After which he captured Shewan. Shewan was a city of traders and merchants. So Muhammad bin Qasim was going to leave no stone unturned to punish and also to gather more and more wealth. Had avenging the plunder at the Debel port been the sole motive of this invasion, they would have certainly stopped at Debel. But because he saw an opportunity, he saw the weak, fragmented polity of the Chach dynasty. Chach dynasty under Dahir, a unpopular ruler, it was not a very strong polity. It was like a fragmented polity in which the governors of Dahir, they were semi-autonomous. On multiple occasions, they expressed their willingness to be independent. So Muhammad bin Qasim, because Arab merchants were plying here for a long time, they had revealed these loopholes, these limitations to the Western world. Hence, he was moving ahead. By this time, when Debal, Nerun, and Shehwan was being plundered, it was being razed, Dahir, he was waiting. So here, Dahir's lack of strategic foresight is also revealed. He could have checked the movement of Muhammad bin Qasim's force at the first spot, but he wanted a full-fledged battle in which he could defeat the Qasim's army in a single stroke. So this was the strategic miscalculation of Dahir. So in terms of military strategy also, he was very weak. In the Battle of Rawar, in this Battle of Rawar, Dahir was defeated and later killed by Qasim's army. So Muhammad bin Qasim, he defeated in a full-fledged battle. It was a full-fledged battle which further strengthened the idea of military potentiality, the military potency of the armies of the Arabs. After defeating and killing Dahir, he moved ahead. He moved towards Upper Sindh and began to, so in the upper Indus basin of the Sindh, he began to capture one by one all the cities. Prominent among them was the capture of Multan, which Muhammad bin Qasim named as the City of Gold because of its vast resources. There is a very popular story that the people of Multan, they were very adamant and they were not willing to surrender. And they were offering stout resistance to the army of Muhammad bin Qasim. And Muhammad bin Qasim was also trying to infiltrate inside the city, but he had failed on numerous occasions. Then somebody also betrayed from within the city and he came to know about the source of water supply to the city. And once he was aware that the water supply it is from an external source, he cut off the water supply and forcing the peoples, the residents inside the fort to ultimately surrender. So he captured all these cities either through direct military conflict or through strategies, which further reveal that in comparison to the incompetent, in comparison to the person who was very unpopular, Dahir, Muhammad bin Qasim was a much capable military general. He was a much capable strategist, military strategist who even used treachery whenever it was required. And only within a few months, all of these cities lay open, they lay surrendered before the Arabs. Reasons for the success. We have by discussing till now, you would have already figured out what are the reasons. So let us try to tabulate them one by one. What are the reasons for the quick success of the Arabs against a country which was known to present resistance to the external invaders? India has never been alien to foreign invasions, but India has offered resistance in multiple ways. The resistance of Porus to Alexander's army is present even in today's bardic tales also. However, in comparison to that, the Arabs' invasion of Sindh was a matter of very small time. So what were the reasons? Was it the disparity, the dichotomy between the military of both the nations, or was it something else? First comes the social integration, social disintegration and political disintegration of Sindh. Social disintegration because of Dahir's policy of persecution of non-Brahmins. So because of Dahir's unpopular policies and also because it was heterogeneous in terms of religious beliefs. We had Brahmins, Buddhists, Jains, Jews, etc. Because of this, there was absence of social cohesion. Politically, each of the cities, they were administered by governors who from time to time refused to acknowledge the suzerainty of Dahir. So presence of semi-autonomous political units, because of which it was easy for Muhammad bin Qasim to pick and choose and defeat each of these cities one by one. Geographical condition of Sindh. If we go by the territorial expanse of Chach dynasty, it was very limited with a small population. Geographically, Sindh was cut from mainstream India, from the mainstream polity, because of which, even if Dahir would have asked for help from the kings of nearby regions such as the Pratiharas, he would have not received any help. So, geographical conditions in terms of limited territory plus small population, because of this, the recruitment ground was limited, and also Sindh was cut off from mainstream India. Hence, he could not receive any help from the Pratiharas and Parmars. Weakness of Dahir we have seen in terms of his policies and also his foresight. He was not able to calculate the level of threat which Muhammad bin Qasim was posing to him. He dismissed the very small request of Al-Hajjaj to persecute, to stop this plunder. Had he understood this, he would have definitely not invited the catastrophe which led to his personal demise also. Religious fanaticism, again we can see in terms of the policies of Dahir, because of which the population was not loyal. So we can say the population's disloyalty to the ruling section and the leadership of Qasim, both in terms of military, strategy, planning, and pragmatism. So, in whatever way it was possible to defeat, in whatever way it was possible to breach the fortification of the cities, he did so. And he did not stop after plundering one or two cities. He had a vision in his mind also. Importance of the vision. Before this, Qasim wanted to move further inwards. But unfortunately, because of the court politics, in the Caliph's court, Caliph was he was poisoned. His ears was poisoned against Muhammad bin Qasim, and unfortunately, he ordered the death sentence, which was executed. And because of the execution of Muhammad bin Qasim, this experiment or this invasion did not intrude further into the Indian subcontinent. The Arabs' invasion of Sindh, because it was a small affair, because it was a limited affair in terms of time period, and because the Arabs failed to implant any permanent large political setup, because of which this event has been dismissed by many of the historians as a no effect. So many of the historians, emphasizing upon the political consequence, say that this invasion was a no effect. Why? Because the Arabs, they failed to establish an Islamic polity. However, we cannot completely reject, we cannot refute that it had no political consequence. Some of the practices which was introduced by Muhammad bin Qasim in the captured cities, they were revived in later times. So we can say that there was an element of continuity in policies. Muhammad bin Qasim was the first ruler in Indian history to impose jizya. Jizya is a form of religious tax, a tax which is imposed by Islamic rulers on non-Islamic population for their safety. Jizya, we will study more about it when we reach the Delhi Sultanate and then the Mughals. Jizya has been collected from the non-Muslim population along with the land revenue. And jizya has been abolished and it has been revived over the course of medieval India, driven by a number of factors. So jizya, which was for the first time introduced and imposed on Indians, on the Sindh population, was later seen during Delhi Sultanate and Mughals also. We also see that Muhammad bin Qasim, after capturing the cities, he developed a cosmopolitan outlook. So Muhammad bin Qasim's cosmopolitanism means somebody who is open to accept or to at least welcome multiple views from different backgrounds. So cosmopolitanism is seen because he had developed very warm relations with Brahmins. So again, this is proving that the invasion was driven more by strategic interests. It was driven more by commercial interests rather than by religious fanaticism, which some of the historians believe to be the core cause. We see this cosmopolitan outlook of Muhammad bin Qasim recurring in terms of Akbar, who had very good relations with the Hindus, prominently the Rajputs. However, this event, this Arabs invasion in 712 AD, is believed to have a great effect culturally, demographically, and also economically. So the impact of Arabs invasion, it is studied to have a long-term cultural impact. The Arabs, they strengthened, they made Sindhi language very rich. So they enriched Sindhi and also developed its script. Decimal system, they also gained. It was not that it was a one-way exchange, but we have seen that in ancient history also, whenever an invasion has occurred, despite all its negative elements in terms of plunder, loss of life and property, it has also opened new channels of exchange of ideas between India and the invading nation or the invading civilization. So the Arabs also gained a lot from India. In Arabs, around this time, around 8th, 9th century, this was a golden period. The Abbasids were ruling, and the Abbasids, they were very tolerant, they were very creative, and they were patron of art and culture, they were patron of scientific education, and they were very cosmopolitan, they were very open to accept, imbibe new ideas. So this was a time in the Arab world when scholars, intellectuals, philosophers, thinkers from all over the world, they used to come and contribute. And a number of texts in ancient languages of various civilizations across the world was translated into Persian to enable for further knowledge expansion in the Arabic world. So the Arabs gained a lot by interaction with India. Decimal system, which was introduced in India around 5th century, it was introduced in the Arabic world, giving rise to Arabic numerals. They also gained from Indian philosophy, Indian astronomy, Indian medicinal science, astrology. So exchange of ideas was happening. Exchange of ideas was happening culturally. It was very rich. A number of textbooks were translated from Sanskrit to Persian, such as Surya Siddhant, Panchatantra, Brahma Siddhant. Panchatantra was later, it was from the Arabic world, it traveled further west to the Mediterranean world, where it was presented in the form of Aesop's fables for the kids. The Arabic world also benefited out of India's medicinal knowledge. The books of Charak and Sushrut was also translated. So Charak Samhita, Sushrut Samhita, it was translated into Persian. There is a very notable example that an Indian, he was employed as a chief medical officer. Dhana was employed as a chief medical officer in Baghdad. And because of his efforts, Manaka, he was also a physician. He was cured of a deadly disease. So a physician himself was cured. Although the Arabs failed to establish a large empire, but diplomatic relations began on a full scale between the Arabic world and the rulers of northwest India. It is said that diplomatic relations were maintained by Pratiharas with the Arab rulers, and they exchanged ambassadors. So the Arabic rulers used to send their ambassadors to the Pratihara courts and vice versa. The Pratiharas were also interested in importing the finely bred Central Asian horses to be used as their cavalry wing. The horse trade, the Arabs' horses were more sturdy, they had more stamina, they were more fast also, they could carry more weight. So they were in huge demand from now on in the among all the rulers of not only North India but also South India. Economic relations was not only about import of horses, but economic relations was also about import of new manufacturing techniques. So leather tanning, which was very popular in the Arabic world, it acquired ground in India also. It began in India also. The Arabs taught Indians how to breed better qualities of camel. So camel breeding, use of skin hides, leather tanning, all this started on a full scale. Demographically also, this invasion of Sindh was a very significant event. Many of the Arabs they settled as merchants and traders, and they started marrying Sindhi women, because of which the a type of mixed race emerged, which benefited both. The Arabs were also instrumental in planting Islamic faith in the Malabar coasts, because of which we see the earliest examples of mosques in India long before the Delhi Sultanate can be found from the Malabar coast. So, because of all this, we can see that the event, which wrapped up within a few months, left long lasting imprints on the culture of India, on the demography of India, and also the military techniques with respect to the use of horses. When we will be discussing about the Rajputs and their defeat at the hands of the Turks, we will analyze that how far this horse was a major factor which gave an edge to the Turkish rulers. After Arab invasion, let us shift to what was happening in India, because this was a period in India which was known as a early medieval phase. Early medieval phase was a phase of fragmented polity. So with Arabs invasion and the small beginning of Islam in India, a time has come now to analyze the political situation in North India before the actual invasion by the Turks happened around 11th century.